7 Ghost Secrets the devil never wanted you to know. What if the most dangerous thing about ghosts isn't that they exist, but that you've been lied to about what they really are? Most people think ghosts are just lost souls, wandering between worlds, seeking closure, love, or unfinished business. That's the version we were fed by movies, stories, and childhood whispers in the dark. It sounds almost tragic, almost beautiful, almost harmless. But what if that story isn't just wrong? What if it was intentionally designed to keep you blind? Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. If ghosts were just lonely spirits, then why do they bring fear instead of peace? Why do they drain energy instead of healing it? Why do they appear more often where pain, trauma, and darkness once lived? The answer is unsettling, and that's exactly why most people avoid it. Not because it isn't true, but because deep down, something inside them already knows it might be. The world doesn't lack ghost stories. From ancient civilizations to modern horror movies, almost every culture has its own version. Shadows in abandoned houses, whispers in empty hallways, footsteps where no one stands. But what they rarely talk about is this: the true nature of these encounters and who benefits from your fear. Because the truth is, not everything that appears as a ghost is a ghost. And not every presence you feel in the dark belongs to a lost human soul. Some of these entities don't wander by accident. Some are sent, some are attracted, and some are simply invited. By curiosity, by grief, by emotional wounds that never healed. And the more people treat these encounters as entertainment, something romantic, something mystical or fascinating, the more doors they slowly open without even realizing it. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. There is a reason why certain truths about ghosts are never deeply explained in mainstream culture. There is a reason why they are wrapped in fantasy, softened by sadness, or masked as paranormal curiosity. Because the moment you realize what many of these spirits truly are, you stop playing with them. You stop calling to them. You stop seeking them. You stop romanticizing them. And that's exactly what certain forces don't want. The devil doesn't need people to worship him directly. That would be too easy, too obvious. He only needs people to misunderstand the invisible world, to approach it casually, without protection, without awareness, and without truth. Because fear without understanding is power. In this message, you're not about to hear another ghost story. You're about to uncover 7 secrets, 7 realities about the spirit world that the enemy would rather keep buried under fiction, superstition, and half-truths. Secrets that explain why some people attract dark encounters, why some places feel heavier than others, why curiosity often comes before oppression, and why the most dangerous ghosts are not the ones you see, but the ones you misunderstand. So stay with me. Because if you've ever felt watched when you were alone, if you've ever sensed a presence you couldn't explain, or if you've ever been drawn to the mystery of the unseen, this isn't just a story. This is a revelation. Number 1. Not all ghosts are human souls. People often grow up with a simple belief that feels almost comforting, that when someone dies, their soul might linger, wandering through familiar places because of love, regret, or unfinished words. It sounds human, almost poetic. And maybe that's why it became such a widely accepted explanation. But the truth is quieter, colder, and far more complicated than that. Because not every presence that feels like a ghost ever belonged to a human life. Some of them were never born, never breathed, never felt love or loss. And yet they are here, aware, observing, moving through the invisible spaces that most people never stop to question. And that realization changes everything, because now the story is no longer about grief or nostalgia. It becomes about identity, deception, and what exists beyond what we can neatly explain. When people speak about feeling a presence, they rarely describe warmth or familiarity. They speak about heaviness, unease, a sudden cold that has nothing to do with the temperature of the room, a pressure in the air that makes the silence feel alive. And if these were simply lost human souls, why would their energy feel so different from the emotional weight of a memory? A human soul, even in sorrow, still carries remnants of connection, of something recognizable. But many encounters with the unseen are described as sharp, unfamiliar, and almost calculating, as if something is not just present, but observing with intent. Across older spiritual writings and traditions that existed long before modern horror culture, there is a repeated idea that not all spirits originate from human life. There are entities that exist in a different order, not bound by time, flesh, or memory as we know it. They do not linger out of attachment. They remain because they choose to. And they are not drawn to buildings or objects alone. They are drawn to states of being, to emotional fractures, to moments when the human mind is weakened by pain, grief, or curiosity, because in those moments awareness lowers its guard without noticing. This is why many so-called ghost encounters don't happen randomly. They appear around people going through loss, deep loneliness, psychological cracks, or spiritual confusion. Not because these people deserve it, but because vulnerability acts like an open window at night, and not everything that enters through an open window comes to bring comfort. Some comes to study, some comes to linger, and some comes to test how much space it has been given. The most dangerous misunderstanding is when people assume every unseen presence deserves sympathy, because sympathy lowers distance. Sympathy opens communication, and not every presence that responds is what it claims to be. Some wear familiarity the way a mask wears a face, and once you trust the mask, you stop questioning what stands behind it. Number 2. Ghosts are drawn to human emotion. What most people never realize is that the unseen world does not interact with us the way the physical world does. It is not driven by gravity, time, or distance. It is drawn by something much quieter and much more personal: emotion. Not the kind of emotion you express in words, but the one that settles deep inside your chest and lingers there long after you stop talking. The kind that changes your breathing when you are alone. The kind that fills silence with weight, because to certain beings that exist beyond the physical, human emotion is not just a feeling, it is a signal. That is why ghost experiences rarely happen when life feels stable and grounded. They often appear when a person is grieving, when the house feels empty even though it is full, when a relationship has just ended, when loneliness grows heavy in the quiet of a room. It is in those moments that emotion becomes saturated, dense, almost visible, even though you cannot see it with your eyes. And in that density, something else becomes aware of you. Fear plays a role, but not the way people imagine. It is not just terror that draws these presences closer. It is unresolved emotion, long sadness, bitterness that was never processed, guilt that keeps looping in the back of the mind, memories that have turned into wounds instead of stories. These emotions do not simply disappear. They linger in the atmosphere of a person, in their body language, in the way silence surrounds them, and to things that exist in between worlds. These are not abstract. They are forms of energy, and energy does not remain unnoticed forever. This is why people often say their encounters began during a difficult period in their lives, after a loss, after trauma, after moving into a new place, feeling emotionally drained, not because the place itself is cursed, but because the person arrives there already carrying something heavy inside. Emotion does not stay locked within skin. It spills quietly, shaping the invisible layers around us, and some presences move through those layers, the way fish move through water. What makes this dangerous is not that emotions exist, because they are part of being human, but that most people never learn how to carry them with awareness. They either suppress them or drown in them, and in both cases the emotional current becomes unstable, and instability creates openings, not physical ones, psychological ones, spiritual ones, subtle gaps where attention fades and sensitivity thins. So when people say a presence felt stronger in certain moments, they are often noticing something without understanding it. Not that the presence suddenly appeared, but that their emotional state made them more accessible, more receptive, more open without intending to be. Because to these entities, unguarded emotion is not a weakness in a moral sense. It is simply an opening in perception. And when perception opens, not everything that enters comes from a place of care. Number 3. The devil uses ghost stories to distract you. What most people never consider is that fear itself can be guided. Not controlled in an obvious way, not forced, but gently redirected like a stream being led into a different riverbed. And few things redirect human attention more effectively than ghost stories. They feel mysterious, thrilling, unsettling, just dangerous enough to hold curiosity without demanding real responsibility. And that is exactly why they have been allowed to spread, evolve, romanticize, and entertain for so long. Because while people are busy being fascinated by shadows on walls, something deeper happens quietly in their blind spot. Ghost stories keep the mind looking outward instead of inward. They make people scan their surroundings instead of examining their own state of being. They teach people to fear footsteps behind them instead of unrest within them. And while attention is focused on external mystery, internal awareness slowly weakens, not dramatically, not instantly, just little by little, like light dimming so gradually that the eyes adjust without noticing the loss. There is a reason why so many modern interpretations of ghosts soften the danger. They make them appear tragic, misunderstood, even lovable. Spirits caught between worlds, lingering for love, unfinished promises, lost connections, and on the surface it seems humane to see them that way. But what that narrative really does is remove caution. It turns something unknown into something emotionally approachable, something people feel safe talking to, safe inviting, safe reaching toward. And once something is approached without discernment, it no longer needs to force its way in. Safe reaching toward. And once something is approached without discernment, it no longer needs to force its way in. The devil does not need people to pray to him or acknowledge him. He does not even need people to believe in him. All he needs is for human awareness to be misdirected, for attention to be captivated by the surface while the deeper current is ignored. Because when you think the danger lies in footsteps or shadows, you stop paying attention to the state of your own mind, the condition of your own spirit, the quiet shifts inside your perception. And over time, this distraction creates a pattern. People become more interested in contact than in clarity, more drawn to experience than to understanding. They seek encounters instead of insight, and in doing so, they place themselves exactly where they can be influenced without resistance. Because curiosity without grounding does not strengthen awareness, it thins it. This is why ghost stories flourish most in times of emotional instability, when society feels uncertain, when individuals feel disconnected, when people are searching for meaning in the unseen. Because in those moments, mystery becomes a substitute for truth, and mystery is easy to control when it has no foundation. It can be directed, framed, filtered, made into something that feels safe, while still keeping people just unsettled enough to remain dependent on the unknown. What looks like harmless fascination often becomes a slow redirection of focus, away from inner stability, away from spiritual discipline, away from conscious awareness. And when attention is redirected long enough, people begin to fear the wrong things, seek the wrong answers, and open the wrong doors, all while believing they are simply being curious. Number 4. Spirits are drawn to unresolved trauma. Some wounds don't fade with time. They just sink deeper into the quiet layers of a person, settling beneath language, beneath logic, beneath what others can see. From the outside, life may seem to move forward, but inside, something stays suspended, like a moment that never finished happening. And it is in these suspended places that certain presences are most drawn, not because of weakness, not because of fault, but because unresolved trauma does not simply exist in memory. It exists as atmosphere. Trauma changes the way a person occupies space. It changes the way silence feels around them, the way stillness breathes in a room. the way night collects itself when the lights go out. It is not only psychological, it is energetic, a distortion in the natural rhythm of being, like a fragile echo that keeps circling where it was first created. And some entities perceive that echo long before another human ever would, because where humans see pain, they detect opportunity to linger. This is why certain places feel heavy long after the events that occurred within them have ended. Not because walls remember, but because human suffering leaves imprints that do not dissolve easily. A house where grief once saturated the air does not return to neutrality the moment people move on. Something of that atmosphere remains, like fragrance trapped in fabric. And when someone with similar inner wounds enters that space, those two layers begin to resonate, quietly, invisibly, like two notes finding the same frequency. Spirits drawn to trauma do not always announce themselves. Often, they do nothing dramatic. They do not slam doors or whisper names. They simply stay close. They observe. They rest within the emotional current of the place or the person. And proximity is enough, because over time, proximity influences perception. The room feels different. Sleep becomes lighter. Thoughts wander in unwanted directions. Emotions feel slightly heavier without obvious cause, and because the change is gradual, it is easy to assume it comes from within, when in fact, something else has slowly entered the atmosphere. What makes unresolved trauma especially dangerous is not the presence of pain itself, but the way pain silences awareness. People carrying deep wounds often try to survive, to function, to move forward. And in doing so, they lack the space to notice the subtle shifts around them. They attribute unease to stress, fatigue to life, restlessness to overthinking. And in that misinterpretation, the environment remains unexamined, even when something within it has changed. Not every presence drawn to trauma exists to harm, but not every presence drawn to trauma exists to heal either. And the danger lies not in their arrival, but in the blindness with which it is often met. Because until a wound is acknowledged, until it is seen, until it is brought back into conscious awareness, it remains an open field. And open fields in the unseen world rarely remain empty for long. Number 5. The devil wants you to romanticize ghosts. There is a strange shift that has taken place over time in how people speak about the unseen. What once was met with caution, distance, and instinctive boundaries has slowly been softened into something almost poetic. Ghosts are no longer just feared. They are misunderstood in a way that makes them feel familiar, even sympathetic. Lost lovers, lonely spirits, tragic souls waiting for closure. And at first glance, this framing seems gentle, even compassionate, but it is exactly this softness that creates the opening. Romanticizing something strips away the natural instinct to guard against it. When a presence is seen as sad instead of unknown, people lean closer instead of stepping back. When something is framed as misunderstood, people feel responsible for understanding it, and in that shift, distance disappears. Caution dissolves into curiosity. Boundaries turn into invitations disguised as empathy. This is not accidental. When something dangerous is made to look beautiful, people approach it without armor. Not with protection, not with discernment, but with open emotion. And open emotion is the easiest passage between worlds, because it carries no defense. It carries only intention, and intention, when unaware of consequences, becomes a bridge. Romantic stories about ghosts teach people to want connection with what they do not understand. They plant the idea that the invisible world is emotionally accessible, as if spirits follow the same moral compass, the same emotional structure, the same needs as humans do. But not everything that exists beyond human life shares human limitations. Not everything experiences love or loss the way we do. Yet when it is framed that way, people project their own nature onto something that may not carry it at all. And projection is powerful. Because when you project humanity onto the unknown, you blind yourself to its true nature. You assume empathy where there may be observation. You assume sadness where there may be calculation. You assume innocence where there may be something far more neutral or far more intentional, and by doing so, you stop questioning. People who romanticize ghosts are not drawn by danger. They are drawn by meaning. They see in the unseen a continuation of love, a proof that bonds don't break, a softness beyond death. And that longing is deeply human, but it is also deeply exploitable, because longing does not ask enough questions. It simply reaches, and what it reaches toward doesn't always reach back with the same heart. The more people are taught that ghosts are gentle, sentimental, or harmless, the less they protect themselves from what they cannot see. And the less they protect themselves, the more influence they allow into their emotional world without realizing it. Not through force, not through threat, but through familiarity. And that is the most effective kind of deception. Not one that scares people away, but one that makes them walk closer on their own. Number 6. Most encounters begin with curiosity. 1. Very few doors in the unseen world are forced open. Most of them are touched first, gently, almost absent-mindedly, by curiosity. Not a dramatic kind of curiosity, not the one that arrives with fear or obsession, but the quiet kind that whispers, just once, "I wonder what would happen if," and in that small whisper, something shifts. Because curiosity, when left without discernment, is not just a thought, it is an invitation that doesn't realize it is speaking aloud. People rarely approach the unseen with intention to invite anything harmful. They begin with questions, with interest, with a harmless search for meaning or sensation. They read about spirits. They watch videos. They listen to stories late at night. They experiment with small rituals that seem innocent enough. A coin, a phrase, a quiet call into the dark, half as a joke, half as a challenge. And because nothing happens immediately, they assume the unseen is dormant, unresponsive, or imaginary. But the unseen doesn't operate on the same timing as human expectation. Curiosity does not need belief to be effective. That is what most people misunderstand. Even skepticism can open a space, because what matters is not whether you believe, but whether your attention opens outward instead of remaining grounded within. When curiosity stretches beyond the self, it creates a subtle shift in focus, like a window slightly unlatched, and no one stands by that window waiting for something to come through. They forget about it. They move on. They go to sleep, but the opening remains. This is why so many experiences with the unseen don't happen at the moment of the action, but later, when life has moved on, when the curiosity has already faded into memory, when the question has been forgotten, but the signal remains. Something answered it, just not on the time scale that was expected. Curiosity also softens boundaries. It makes people more receptive, more mentally open, more emotionally available, without noticing the cost. They begin to observe their environment differently. Silence feels different. Darkness feels more present, not because anything new has appeared, but because their awareness has shifted toward what was already there. And not everything that exists in unseen layers is meant to be acknowledged without preparation. This is why traditions across cultures always warned about seeking contact without protection. Not because the unknown needs to be feared, but because it needs to be approached with grounding, with clarity, with awareness of limits. Without those, curiosity becomes exposure, and exposure, when unconscious, becomes vulnerability. Most people who experience unexplained encounters don't start as thrill seekers, they start as questioners. But when questions are asked into silent spaces without knowing who might be listening, they sometimes receive answers they weren't prepared to interpret. And once awareness has shifted toward those answers, it does not always return to its previous shape. Not because they were meant to be harmed, but because curiosity, once it opens a door, does not always know how to close it again. Number 7. They fear the light of truth. There is a kind of light the world does not know how to measure, a light that does not come from the sun or from fire, but from truth breathed into a human spirit. It is the light spoken of in ancient scripture, not as a symbol but as a reality, the kind that enters quietly and exposes what once survived in shadow, because darkness does not exist as a power on its own. It only exists where light has not yet been received. These presences do not fear candles or open windows or the morning sun. They do not tremble at physical brightness. What they recognize, and what unsettles them, is something far deeper. They respond to a soul that no longer stands in confusion, a mind no longer lost in fascination, a heart anchored in truth rather than fear. Because when light lives within a person, darkness no longer has a place to settle. Scripture never presents light as decoration. It presents it as revelation, as exposure, as the moment when what was hidden loses its strength simply by being seen. And these entities survive not because they are powerful, but because they are concealed, because they operate best when humans walk without awareness, when the mind remains distracted, when the spirit is unguarded and drifting. But when a person becomes still enough to hear truth beyond noise, when they begin to recognize what darkness actually feeds on, when they stop reaching for the unseen as entertainment and start grounding themselves in what is real, something shifts. Not violently, not dramatically, just quietly, like a door closing without a sound. And where a door is closed, not everything can enter. Light does not chase. Light does not argue. Light does not need to dominate. It simply exists, and in existing, it changes the atmosphere. This is why certain presences do not linger around those who carry discernment. Not because these people perform rituals or speak louder or claim authority through force, but because their presence is no longer compatible. Darkness seeks resonance. It seeks agreement. It seeks vulnerability. And when it finds a mind that is no longer fractured by fear, no longer fascinated by the unknown, no longer open out of ignorance, it finds nothing to attach to. The enemy has never feared religion in its empty form. He has never feared words spoken without understanding. He has never feared rituals done out of habit. What he fears is clarity. He fears a human spirit that stands in truth without spectacle, without obsession, without chasing mystery, because that spirit is no longer a doorway. It is a wall not built from resistance but from awareness. The light of truth does not need to remove darkness. Darkness removes itself when truth takes its place. And when that happens, when light is no longer sought outside but recognized within, the unseen loses interest, not because it is defeated but because it is no longer invited. Because darkness cannot dwell where truth is no longer questioned. Conclusion: darkness cannot remain where truth dwells. In the end, what you have heard in this message is not meant to make you fear the unseen, but to make you understand it. Fear fades when truth arrives. Darkness loses its weight when light is recognized. And the purpose of revelation is never to terrify the heart, but to steady it, because a heart that stands in understanding no longer trembles before shadows. The world will continue telling ghost stories. It will continue romanticizing what it does not fully grasp. It will continue turning the unseen into entertainment, into culture, into mystery. But you do not have to walk as those who wander without light. You were not created to live in confusion. You were created to see, to discern, to stand in the truth that frees rather than blinds. If there is one thing to carry with you beyond this video, let it be this: darkness only holds power where awareness is absent. Not because it is strong, but because it is unchallenged. And once a person chooses to walk in clarity, once they stop feeding fascination and start cultivating understanding, the shadows no longer find a place to rest. Light does not destroy darkness by fighting it. It replaces it by existing. And you don't need to search for that light in distant places, in rituals, in hidden knowledge, or in fear, because it was never meant to be outside of you. It was meant to be recognized within you. So if this message has stirred something in your spirit, if it has opened your awareness even slightly, don't let it fade into the noise of your day. Stay with this path. Stay with this clarity and walk it forward. And if you wish to continue this journey, If you want to explore deeper truths, deeper revelations, deeper spiritual understanding, then subscribe to this channel. Stay connected. Leave a comment and share what resonated with you. Not because of numbers or algorithms, but because when light connects with light, it grows. And maybe someone else, somewhere in the quiet of their own night, will see a little clearer too.